We still have customs where people still forbid the use of latrines, saying that is how our ancestors lived. We still have people who are practicing violence and extremely barbaric ways. The female genital mutilation, the male chauvinism. Someone tells somebody, you're not my type, you're not my level. And on a serious note, you're not my type is not rejection. That is dehumanization and evidence of ignorance and inner insecurities on the part of the culprits. Welcome our esteemed viewers once again to our identity series episode 7. Today we shall run through the theme of cultural rigidity versus liberalism. This is an interesting issue because we are seeing two competing priorities, two things which are equally crucial and extremely important, and yet we have got to be taking a premeditated step towards one or the other. So when we talk about the rigidity of culture, this is the fact that culture must be preserved very strictly and very cautiously. And yet we are also aiming at progress through societal transformation. So how can we transform our society while at the same time preserving our cultures? So you can really see that it is a bit a messy basket whereby it calls for caution. It calls for real caution. So where do we draw the gray line between? Where does rigidity end with its limits, and where does transformation end with its interference? We have cultures in Africa here which are still preserving and protecting mentalities which are clearly obsolete, clearly outdated, and can by no means be pampered or sugar-coated. For example, we still have customs where people still forbid the use of latrines, saying that is how our ancestors lived. We still have people who are practicing violence and extremely barbaric ways. The female genital mutilation, the male chauvinism, among other societal evils which are being preserved in the name of culture. Yet on the other hand, even when we embrace the changes, we have got to be careful, because we have meaningless changes which have been known to have come overnight only to turn out to be useless within a short time, and yet they have destroyed systems which have stood the test of time. Something which has been there for hundreds of years cannot be terminated overnight for something which has just come recently. We have seen serious debates even in our parliaments about human rights and so on vis-a-vis cultures. For example, minority groups, the so-called LGBTQs, vis-a-vis societal customs and restrictions. So we have been caught at the boundaries between such things because of two misunderstandings. We have the first misunderstanding, which is the belief that culture must be 100% preserved with absolute rigidity. On the other hand, we have another misconception, the belief that modernity is all about unlimited changes. Today we have seen useless music becoming the trend, useless dress codes, useless behavior, arrogant mentalities being called the trend and being mistakenly called free expression. Someone tells somebody, you're not my type, you're not my level. And on a serious note, you're not my type is not rejection. That is dehumanization and evidence of ignorance and inner insecurities on the part of the culprits. So may we awaken to the gray line between the two. The purpose of culture is not to limit all changes or to strictly forbid whatever is new. Neither is the purpose of transformation all about destroying whatever is traditional. Rather, the purpose of culture is a check against meaningless changes. We have changes which do not make sense in the long run. They do not stand the test of time. They come with more harm than good. Such changes, it is the purpose of culture to keep in check against them. So, this calls to mind the importance of such. In Africa today, we have our traditions which have become an endangered species. We are at the verge of being phased out as a cultural community. Our cultural geography is at the verge of total extinction. This is due to too much laxity, ignorance. Of course, whenever there is a negative factor in society, ignorance is always alongside. This is why the importance of education and research can never be overemphasized. This education and research is actually an excellent example of one of those meaningful changes which we should adopt into our cultures. You cannot say because my ancestors used not to read and write, I can't go to school. That is being irrational. It is not sensible. So, the changes which must be admitted into our societies are supposed to be the changes which are worth the price, because it is going to limit on our traditions. On the other hand, the importance of culture should always be considered as a flexible narrative. Culture changes, only that it must change with initiatives and informed perspectives. So, are we making such progress in Africa here, or we are degenerating? Are we moving forward, or we are backsliding? Are we seeing modern versions of African things? Are we seeing African architecture? Are we seeing African dress codes designed by our experts of today? Are we seeing African fashions and designs? Our own model of modernity. Are we seeing such issues in today's Africa? If we were, then we could call that progress. Are we seeing expensive wines which are being designed with African narratives and African blueprints? Are we seeing our symbols, the horns, the drum, the leopard skins, the mountains, the physical features, and so on? Are we seeing them skyrocketing in the artistic medium, in the artistic industry? Are we seeing ourselves selling out our identity to the world, or we are simply dancing to the tunes of other tribes, other peoples, to an extent that we are losing our own selves? Are we proud of our African names, our African dances? In conclusion, these are matters worth considering, which includes embracing African blueprints, African things, African ideas, African identity. Whenever you're designing something, you're coming up with a project, you're forming a company, you're designing some software and so on, bear in mind our African identity. Make sure your symbolism preserves the Africanity of whatever you've designed. The tournaments we are holding, the ceremonies, let us be bold enough to bring in African dancers as interludes, entertainment, and so on, rather than shying away from them and calling them backward and traditional. African music, let us be proud of having them in our phones and our songs. We have good versions of them, even though you may criticize one here and there. Constructive criticism is never void. However, let us appreciate African things. In hundreds of years to come, our grandchildren of the future should be able to identify and say, this is an African symbol. This is an African perspective. This is an African thematic concern. By that, we shall be moving forward towards a much better and presentable Feel free to subscribe to our channel, to give comments, your reaction, liking and so on, because it is for you, our dear viewers, that we make these videos. Please, may we meet in our next episode. Thank you.